Hey, what's up? My name is John Bonjour. I am a comic book artist and film enthusiast. I have drawn some art for this movie and I would like to enthuse about some film. So much would I like to enthuse about some film. Today we are talking about James Gunn's Superman. Okay, so this movie was announced in the middle of the back end of the last DC universe, which is always going to be funny to me, no matter what. But it was announced that James Gunn was going to be taking over the DCU, or creating the DCU, from what was the DCEU, and out of those just truly horrific ashes have emerged something so beautiful and wonderful and exciting, and I cannot wait to talk about it. I'm going to do some non-spoiler thoughts, then I'm going to dive into spoilers, and within the spoilers, I'm going to frame it in such a way that we're able to talk about the movie itself, what it means for the universe, and just general thoughts past that. Overall, Superman is phenomenal. It was originally called Superman Legacy, and let me tell you, it was the right call to change that title, because this is not about that. This is about being Superman. This is about creating the Superman that we know we can have in a comic book movie in a way that I never thought we would actually get. This is everything that I wanted a Superman movie to be. It's heartfelt, it's emotional, it's kind, it's genuine. It's a ridiculously fun time also, which I think is important. I am not here to bash on Zack Snyder's interpretation of Superman or the Justice League or any of that. That is 100% not my goal, just to be clear. That said, the last Superman that we got was a little bit more dour and sad and it was frustrating to watch because it was a guy with Superman powers that didn't really operate like Superman, not like the comic books that we know and love. He's not supposed to be this really sad, upset, angry guy. He's supposed to be hope embodied. And that's all I'm going to say about Zack Snyder, because I really don't want to give him any more time of day. I don't want to give the people who love him way too much any more time of day. What I will say is that James Gunn's Superman is Superman. James Gunn has created this bright, colorful, comic booky, almost cartoonish in a really interesting way, world where a Superman can exist and feel true to the world. The thing that I love about this movie, the thing that stuck with me from the very beginning, was that there is just what I can only describe as a willful ignorance of reality in this film that I think is exceptionally fun. Every other comic book movie, not every other comic book movie, but very many other comic book movies have a tendency to kind of poke fun at the comic book-y things happening in a way that makes us feel like, oh yeah, this is kind of the real world, and also there's comic booky shit happening. Superman is not a movie like that. Superman is a movie with the most comic booky shit you could possibly imagine, and I am so in love with that. I love the Marvel Universe. This has nothing to do with a DC versus Marvel thing. I think they both have absolutely their place and both operate in really unique worlds and can be something really beautiful. Marvel, especially the MCU, is kind of based on this idea of real world, real people, the world we currently know, but what if it had superheroes in it? DC, and now the new DCU, is based more on the idea of what if superheroes had always existed and they've become part of our culture. They've become part of who we are. It's a completely different experience. It's a different universe, a different world. I think that is going to be the absolute key to making these two things feel separate and making them feel like different genres, subgenres within the genre. It's going to be such an important element to these creations, the continuing universes, that they stay in their lane in a way that is good. Like they stay keeping doing the things that they're good at, because Marvel is good at making a real world where Hawkeye can exist, and it's kind of funny that he exists. And also, DC can be really good at making these huge, godlike beings into humans. Superman is hilarious, it's exciting, it's brilliantly shot, it is really, really, really fun to watch. The acting is absolutely incredible. David Corenswet and Rachel Brosnahan both 100% crush their roles. This is not just a guy playing Superman, this is Superman. And in the same way, this is not just a person playing Lois Lane, this is Lois Lane. Even down to like subcasting, Skylar Gisondo plays Jimmy Olsen, Superman's best pal, Jimmy Olsen, if you've read any of the comics, whose whole thing is just that he's constantly getting into these elaborate, ridiculous shenanigans. And I could not be happier with the way that they presented him on screen. It feels like that character brought to life. And that really is my full takeaway from the movie. I have some issues with it, and I'll get into these a little bit more in spoilers. I don't think it is an inherently perfect film. I think there is a little bit too much going on. I think that the pacing in the second act gets a little strange. And honestly, that's pretty much it. And if those are my only two issues with the movie, I have to say, this is an incredible film. This is just one of the greatest comic book movies, perhaps of all time. It is shot like a comic book movie, but it also feels like a prestige drama in some moments. I'm in love with Superman. I am in love with the way that this movie operates. I'm in love with this golden age retro kind of feel that it has without being kitschy about it. I think coming soon, Fantastic Four, First Steps, is a movie that has that retro aesthetic, and it feels kitschy in a way that I think is good. Again, that is not a negative thing, that's a positive thing. But Superman feels down to earth. It feels heartfelt, and it feels like a callback to an older time of film. This has more in common with the original Christopher Reeve Superman than it does with Man of Steel or any of the Justice League movies that we've gotten. This is an old-timey, classic piece of action cinema that is somehow grafted and fused with a brand new comic book movie, and it is so exciting to watch. So please go see Superman if you haven't already seen it. That is going to be the end of my non-spoiler thoughts because I really want to talk about so much in this that it's probably going to be a pretty long video. Please go see Superman if you haven't already. If you have, do what I'm doing and go see it again in a couple of days because I really want this movie to be a just ridiculous success because it deserves to be, and I want this kind of thing to keep being made more than I've maybe wanted anything to ever be made ever. Before we dive into spoilers, I want to just take a quick moment to say that I have a free comic book. And when I say free, I mean 100% free. There are absolutely no, what is the word for that? Hitches? No catches. There's no catch. There's no strings attached. It is a 100% free comic book that you can read all of right now on johnbonart.com. And when I say all of, I don't mean, there's a lot of caveats in this little ad. I don't mean that it is done. I mean all that there is up to now. That said, I guess third caveat number 3. Technically, if you read what's on johnbonart.com, it is not all that exists because I post pages a week early on my Patreon, patreon.com/johnbonjour. So you can go check that out if you love the comic and want to support me, want to support the comic, this YouTube channel, and want to get those pages early. Please go check out my comic nonetheless. It has nothing to do with money. If you cannot support it, great, read it. I really want people to read this comic because I'm really proud of it. And without further ado, let's dive into some spoiler thoughts for Superman. Where do I even begin with this? I genuinely have so many thoughts on this movie that I could talk about it for probably a couple of solid hours. And I want to boil it down. I should have taken some notes on what I wanted to talk about, but I'm kind of flying off the cuff here. So we're just going to do our best and hope that I catch everything. Like I said, David Cornsweet is absolutely the Superman of a generation. He is Superman embodied. The second that he brings his little like, oh golly gee kind of thing to the role, I knew we were in for a treat because this is something that treats its character not like it has to be the coolest guy in the room all the time. I love when Superman isn't the coolest guy. He's the most powerful, but he's not always the most exciting. He's not always the most charming. He's not always the most daring or brave or he doesn't have to be the sickest guy in the room all the time. And I love that this Superman kind of rarely is. I also love that he gets his ass beat to hell and back. Like, this is a movie that sets up Superman. The way that they open the film, I think, is brilliant, saying, hey, superheroes have existed for like 3,000 years or whatever. Superman has been doing this for 3 years, and he just got his ass beat so bad it's never happened like this before. I think that is the most intriguing hook that a movie has maybe ever had. It's so much more interesting than the, I bet you're wondering how I got here kind of thing. I love that this drops right into this world. It drops into the entire universe in a way that feels like stuff has been happening up to this point, and we're just catching up with it now. Little examples of that. Nathan Fillion plays one of the Green Lanterns. He plays Guy Gardner, who is America's most punchable idiot, and I think he crushes it. Like, he's such a dickhead in this movie, but in a way that I really enjoy watching. He's funny, he's lovable, but he's also like a full-blown piece of shit. And I think that there is something so fun about that. But beyond that, the larger point that I'm trying to make is that I think it's very interesting when he talks about like, oh, well, my oath doesn't let me do that. And there isn't a little moment, there's no thing where somebody goes, oath, what do you mean oath? And he goes, oh, well, when I got my ring from the planet Oa, I had to go do an oath, and now I'm a space cop, so that's my thing. Like, there's no introduction to these characters outside of just like, I don't know, they're here. Like, just that they exist and move on with it, and we'll reference things, and eventually maybe we'll learn more about them. Same deal, like Hawk Girl, Mr. Terrific. I think both of those characters, all three of the Justice Gang as they're going by for now, those characters have little to no backstory explored because A, the movie doesn't have time for it, and B, I think it's more interesting if they just kind of show up and it feels like you're reading a comic where you're like, who is Plastic Man? That's really fun that they hint toward those kinds of things. But I'm so in love with this universe that they've created of just constantly stuff is happening. Like there's this brilliant scene for two reasons where we see Superman and he's like been beat emotionally and physically and he doesn't know what to do. So he's just kind of in his apartment and he's like, I don't know where I'm going, what I'm doing. And he and Lois are talking, and behind them you can see a multi-dimensional imp that is getting its ass beat by the Justice Gang. And I think it is such a fun idea that, like, yeah, stuff is happening constantly in this world. Metropolis is being attacked probably quite a lot. And sometimes Superman needs to be there to help, and sometimes he just straight doesn't. I think the world that they've created is so much fun. It feels like a world that we could have a Batman, we could have a Plastic Man, we can have these characters, like Batman can have a Robin, and that'll just be like, sure, like he just does have a Robin, so if you have a problem with it, like just don't have a problem with it. I love that we don't have to justify every weird thing that's happening in this movie. From a story perspective, my biggest problems with this movie are just really that it does have so much going on. There's like 3 or 4 different Lex Luthor attacks. There's a bunch of different villains, and like the engineer is in this movie, and she doesn't really get a whole lot of explanation, which overall is a positive thing. But I like, she was a very interesting character, and I'm kind of like, I wish we got to see more of what she was about, and we got to see more of where she was at. And I guess that's probably how this is supposed to work, is we're supposed to leave being like, Mr. Terrific, who's that guy? I want to learn more about him. Maybe they'll do like a Mr. Terrific show or whatever. But I think it suffers slightly for me because it has this element of there's so much going on. There are so many things happening that I wish we got to slow down for just a little bit more. Some of the beats that I wish that they got to slow down, I wish we had a second to breathe in a couple of those things. That is pretty much it though. Like again, I can't stress this enough. Like my issues with the film are start and stop with that. And I should have mentioned this in my non-spoilers, but Nicholas Hoult is the worst guy in the world. He is a brilliant Lex Luthor. He plays it phenomenally. I think there's this really interesting scene where Superman has officially fully stopped Lex Luthor, and you can see that he is caught. And at first, he's upset that he's caught, and then very, very, very subtly, that upset that he's caught, just in the facial cues, turns into upset at Superman for making this happen. And I've liked Nicholas Hoult for a really long time. I think he's a great actor, but I think this is a role that he is maybe born to play. Like, the casting on this film is so exceptional. The second act thing that I was talking about is Superman gets put in this pocket dimension prison, which is wild that we're doing that in the first Superman movie. Like, that really feels like something that would be in a later Superman movie when we've kind of gone past the boundaries of what is normal for this world. He gets put in a pocket dimension prison created by Lex Luthor, and that section of the film I think is intrinsically important to the movie, but also a little bit odd because we have like Lois and Mr. Terrific, and they're trying to come in and save Superman, and Superman and Metamorpho they're trying to like figure out how to escape in a way that works, and there's a lot going on. It just all doesn't necessarily come to mean everything. Like, Lois is technically in the pocket dimension, but she spends like most of the time sort of looking out and going, hey, Mr. Terrific, do you see Superman? And Mr. Terrific is like, I don't know yet, we'll see. Which is not uninteresting, but it's just like, well, I'm not sure what the purpose was of having them there, outside of just they had to be there to then bring Superman to Ma and Pa Kent. So a couple of those things kind of feel a little bit contrived in terms of where they knew the plot needed to go. That said, there was also like an anti-proton river or whatever they called it, which is just like crazy. Like, it's so insane that this thing just exists. Like, there's this river of flowing antimatter bringing them toward a a black hole and Superman has to hold up Metamorpho's baby so he doesn't get hurt. That scene is insane. Like, that is not a scene you expect out of the first Superman movie. That is a scene you would expect out of the third or fourth Superman movie when they realize they're allowed to stretch the boundaries. This movie and universe are starting by stretching the boundaries, and that's pretty freaking cool. I keep coming back to this thought over and over that I just legitimately can't believe that they made this movie. Like, I can't believe they were allowed to make this movie. I can't believe Warner Brothers, of all studios, gave James Gunn the permission to make something as insane and ridiculous and goofy and silly and heartfelt as this. The whole point of this movie, and this is like kind of a big deal, the whole point of this movie is that Superman grew up believing that his parents wanted him to be the best protector of the Earth. Turns out they sent him to rule over the Earth. It's kind of an invincible situation. And I'll be honest, there was a large chunk of this movie that I kind of didn't believe that that's what they were going for, even though they repeatedly and forcefully told us that, yes, this is true, this is 100% true, no question. And it took me a long time to kind of come around to that, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that are a little upset about the change of lore in that direction. But the more I think about it, the more I sit on that and this movie as a whole, the more I just appreciate that the point of the story was not this guy was chosen to be the greatest guy of all time, but that the point was this guy chose to be the greatest guy of all time. I think that's a way more interesting story. The motivation changing from like, I do this because my parents told me that I was supposed to do this and I carry that burden, to I choose to do this because I can and I carry the weight of responsibility. I think that's a way interesting character arc. Paired with his learning to trust people, learning to let people in, I think the character work is truly exceptional, which is not surprising. James Gunn is a guy who made us cry over a CGI raccoon, so we're not super worried about that. Like that is a thing that he's good at, and we already knew that. But it is so relieving to see that he can make something so impactful, such a solid story as this, and also have a giant kaiju fight and a Green Lantern flipping off a bunch of tanks. All of these things, like the scene with Mr. Terrific where he goes around and just beats the crap out of a bunch of guys with his T-spheres. It's so amazing to me that there's this balance of everybody is really cool and fun and engaging and exciting in this movie, and nobody has to take a hit for somebody else to be more cool or fun or engaging or exciting. Everybody gets to just bring it in this, and it just works. Like, it is jam-packed full of stuff. And while my complaint that maybe there was a little too much stuff is still, I think, true, it's pretty minimal, because I would rather there be way too much stuff than be not enough. And this has too much stuff in a way that I think is a lot, but also I think maybe the more I watch it, the less that'll become a problem for me. And honestly, even the more I'm talking about it, making this video, the less it's a problem for me, because I keep thinking like, okay, yes, there's a whole lot of shit in this movie, but what would I cut out? Prison is important. Getting Kryptonite introduced is important. Metamorpho is a really interesting character, so it'd be a shame to lose that. Also, it gives the scene a very, just a fun series of stakes with the baby, and the fact that you get to see Superman care about just one human life. That whole section is interesting. You also get this kind of horrific display of Lex's power and what he's willing to do with the monkeys and the people in the prison and the beings that are like driving around his little like cart thing that seem to be just created for that express purpose, where he's just like god of this little pocket universe and they all just kind of do whatever he says, which is terrifying. All of that is important, so I wouldn't cut any of that. All of the opening stuff is important. Like, I don't see what you could cut, because you have to get Luthor kind of, and I think I'm putting it together now. I think the thing that I struggled with, or was just so unprepared for, is what an active player Lex Luthor is in this movie. I think I'm so used to a Lex Luthor being the guy in the shadows who is eventually revealed as like the final villain, the big bad. He was the bad guy the whole time and you never knew it. Or like a Lex Luthor in a Batman v Superman, where he's pulling strings and doing little intricate little things and piss in a jar or whatever. It's so fun to see a Lex Luthor, and so jarring to see a Lex Luthor and a supervillain that is just doing stuff. He's doing stuff all the time. He's constantly doing stuff in little outfits. And I think it's really fun to see him exist in this space, do all of that stuff, go to like the Fortress of Solitude, create Ultraman, who, by the way, really cool fight with Ultraman. I think that we've seen a lot of like Superman powered guy versus Superman powered guy kind of fights. And I think this was This was one that felt like it had actual stakes. It felt like Ultraman was going to kick the holy crap out of Superman. When he like laser beamed his eyes, that hurt to watch. There's so much of this movie that is so gratifying to see because Superman can still get hurt. He can still get his ass beat and still get back up. I think it's very much more interesting to see that than a guy who can just have everything explode around him, nothing can possibly hurt him, and he just has to exist like Dr. Manhattan. Anyway, I'm getting into nitty-gritty. Other things I wanted to talk about. Supergirl shows up. It's so fun that she shows up, and I am so excited to see the Supergirl movie because Woman of Tomorrow is one of the greatest comic books ever crafted. It is such an exceptional storyline that shows what a super person should be. It's so good. If you haven't read it, you should definitely read it before the movie comes out. But it does look like they're going to be really accurately adapting that storyline, and I'm very excited. She looks great. Her costume is awesome. It's very fun that Crypto is her dog. I assume they're just going to shift out Crypto for some sort of horse. I think it was a horse that was also like her boyfriend or cousin or something. Anyway, comics are weird, but that might happen in this movie. Like there's a 50-50 shot that horse person in a horse body, horse human hybrid, but not. I was wondering how we were going to go from like this Superman movie to a movie where Lobo's going around doing stuff. And very, very, very quickly I've realized it's not going to be that hard. Like I am not going to have a hard time believing that Lobo could be just running around in this universe. Crypto is wonderful. I think he's mostly CGI, which is so impressive because the visual effects are immaculate in this movie. They are beautiful. There is so much going on here. The visual effects are incredible. The score is so good. It uses the classic Superman theme in ways that I think are really important and impactful. There's nothing that I genuinely don't like about this movie. This is the best comic book movie of the year, without question, having not even seen Fantastic Four. There is nothing that movie could do to be this kind of lightning in a bottle. It might be great, but it'll never be this kind of thing. Superman is, I am not afraid to say, one of my favorite movies of 2025 and one of my favorite movies maybe of all time. It is full of hope. It is full of heart. It is a character piece. It's an action epic. Like it's beautifully shot. I am so almost frustratingly excited about Superman. I want to tell everyone about this movie. So here I am telling all 400, which by the way, thanks guys, 400, all 400 of you. If you haven't seen Superman, this is your sign to go see Superman because it is one of the greatest comic book movies ever made. Thank you so much for watching this video and checking out my channel. If you'd like to hear more of my thoughts on movies, comics, TV shows, anything of the like, hit the like button, hit the subscribe, and comment down below what you'd like me to review next. Or do none of those things because I am not your dad.